I'm Stephanie. I am from a company called Neuromeka. Is this better? Okay, I'm from a company called Neuromeka. We are a collaborative robot manufacturer. We are originally based in Korea, but we're actually expanding into new markets. So we have just entered the US market, so very excited to be here. I think this is a really great opportunity, especially to talk to students who obviously are sort of, the future leaders of tomorrow. So yeah, so for those of you who aren't familiar, collaborative robots are essentially robots that are designed to work side by side with humans. So this is a little different than industrial robots, which sort of have to be fenced off for safety reasons or sort of put to a different area. Collaborative robots have safety features that allow people to work side by side along with them. So if you go to the next slide. Neuromeka's sort of vision is to be able to create safer workspaces for people with collaborative robots. And we also want to make sure that automation, which oftentimes can be a very daunting task, is something that is really accessible to everyone and sort of doesn't feel like such a huge hurdle. So we would do that through safety features, through easy interfaces that anyone, even without a programming or like coding background, can really interact with our robot. So we're going to have a demonstration at the end of this, and we can sort of show you how easy it is to work with our robot and sort of give you a live demo on that. So if you go to the next slide, we thought maybe one of our fun sort of case studies that we like to go through is we have a couple customers in the QSR space. So QSR is quick service restaurants. And they use our robots to automate one of the most labor-intensive parts of operations, which is deep frying. I don't know if anyone here has ever worked a deep fryer before, but it is a really, really tough job. So this is an example of how we sort of looked at a way to use cobots to enhance sort of worker experiences by automating those processes that are particularly labor-intensive or difficult. And so if you go to the next slide, we've put together basically some industry trends. This was focused on the US just given this audience here, but we've found these trends sort of across a lot of different markets. So the major challenges that were reported by restaurant managers and operators are across hiring, employee retention, and labor costs. So for hiring in 2023, and obviously the impact of COVID was very strong in this, 80% of operators said that they were struggling to fill open positions. In terms of employee retention, not only are operators struggling to fill positions, they're also struggling to retain employees. So there is very high turnover in the food service industry, around 75% annually, and then this actually can increase up to 150% in quick service restaurants. So this essentially means operators replace their entire workforce yearly and then replace half of those replacements. And we, again, found that back of house operations tend to be really hard to retain employees. And one of the, again, most physically demanding kitchen roles is related to like fryers and grills. We found that nearly 80% of fast food workers report having been burned on the job, and then nearly 75% of those sustained multiple burns. So that means nearly 60% of employees in fast food restaurants have experienced multiple burns on the job. So clearly there's this pain point with operators, but then also employees who are really struggling to sort of do these jobs on a day-to-day basis. And then on top of that, obviously, there's a very high cost associated with rapid turnover when you take into account the cost of recruiting, hiring, training, and the productivity loss. And then the last one here is labor costs. Obviously, with operators, increasing labor costs are a pain point as well, and they have sort of had to adjust their operating hours, operating days in order to account for the sort of how difficult it is to keep up with rising costs. So sort of dialing down onto a micro scale, We work with one of the largest fried chicken franchises in Korea. And again, they face the same sort of issues that we've seen on a macro scale. They experience it day to day. So this was a franchise location initially in a very high volume area. And so they especially found during peak shifts, it would be very, very difficult for them to keep up with the customer demand, with the staff that they have. And so again, the primary struggle really revolved around retaining workers for the deep fryer position. And that's something that they would really have benefited from if we were able to automate. So in terms of the goals that they were looking for, there were four main ones that we were really focused on. One was taste, obviously. So for them, it was really important for them to maintain the same level of high quality taste that was synonymous with their franchise with a robot arm. ROI was also very important to them, just given how tight margins can be in a fast food restaurant. They wanted to make sure that they got a return on their investment within the first year of operation of the robot. And then obviously safety as well, making sure that using the robot in a very small kitchen oftentimes would still ensure the safety of their employees. And then ease of use as well, just given it's such a fast-paced environment, making sure that the robot was really easy to train people on was very important. So this is just a quick video if you're able to play it. That shows the robot arm. So essentially, the robot arm is able to go through the motions of double frying. So the basket is lowered into the deep fryer, moved to the second fryer, and then the oil is drained. And then the chicken is put into a tray, and then an employee would go then put the appropriate sauce on it. So this is really designed to work with an employee together. It's a collaborative robot. And so we found that this helped address a lot of the pain points that the operator was facing. So if you remember the goals, taste, ROI, safety, and ease of use. In terms of taste, we worked really closely with the franchise to make sure that the robot was able to create a taste that was even better than what was currently being done with employees. So we actually did a taste test, and our Neuromeka collaborative robot outperformed the franchisee cook as well as even an R&D cook as well. In terms of the ROI, we really ensured that the efficiency of the robot was as efficient as possible. And so was able to make sure that the operator receives a return on their investment within 1 year of installation. In terms of safety, and we can sort of show you this live, our robot arm already has safety features and collision detection algorithms that allow for a worker to work alongside it safely. And then obviously it also helps employees from getting burns and inhalation of harmful vapors. And so really creates a better work experience, which then in turn also increased their worker retention and provided higher employee satisfaction. And then lastly, of course, ease of use. We have a tablet. So it's very easy to use. You don't need to be an engineer to be able to use the Teach pendant, which is the tablet. And so we made sure that if the restaurant wants to, let's say they want to change their menu and they want to add a new menu item into the system, that's something that they can do very easily as well. So we can go into our demo now. This is our collaborative robot. It's called the Indy 7 as a 7 kg payload. What we'll do is we'll just do a quick tutorial on how to get the robot arm to essentially wave. So there's a feature called direct teaching. There are a few different ways to sort of train the robot, but there's a feature called direct teaching. What you do with direct teaching is you can physically move the robot from point to point. You set those points using the Teach pendant, and then that's pretty much it. The robot learns how to move from that. So I'm going to physically move the robot to the point I want it to start. So it's very easy to do. Okay, so we'll set the first point here. And the whole point of this is that it's very easy to sort of teach the robot. And then we'll set the second point here. And then the robot will remember where each of the points were set and sort of move back and forth. And then one of the sort of features that obviously very important in the context of like a kitchen is, let's say I'm an employee, I'm frying chicken or serving chicken, and I bump into the robot. So it's important for the robot to know to stop. So I'm gonna stop it here, and then the robot stops. So this is what makes it a collaborative robot versus an industrial robot. There can be obviously injuries that happen if the robot doesn't realize there's a person there. Yeah, so this was just a quick demo of our robot. Obviously, there are so many different applications for it as well, across research, education, manufacturing, pick and place, and then obviously in QSR restaurants as well. Yeah, thank you all so much.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, for a very interesting talk and a very interesting demonstration as well. I am sure we will have a lot of questions which we can kind of ask Stephanie after the panel. All right.